It's the poker crew. Place your bets.
I will bet a pizza. Pizza. So, the original Lego Island was about this kid called Pepper running errands across the island and the real hero of the game, the Brickster, breaking free from prison and wreaking havoc. And Lego Island 2 is about this kid called Pepper running errands across the island and the real hero of the game, the Brickster, breaking free from prison and wreaking havoc. Spreading the Lego manual of the town's pages willy-nilly, thus requiring Pepperoni to travel around the world. Wait. Is Lego World round?
What if it's a brick?
To various foreign lands all framed after legally distinct Lego sets. Inside of these, you hang out and do stories until events conspire to throw a minigame at you. One moment you're deep diving or jousting, and the next you'll be snake smacking and skateboarding. It's neat, like weirdly high effort. The minigames, for example, have buckets of original assets. Environments, objects, textures, sounds, music, not to mention controls and codes specifically written for them. I mean, just look at the amount of stuff going on during this one turret section alone. All kinds of ruins, weird Easter eggs, a cute little minecart moment all wrapped up in high-octane gunplay.
Is this, dare I ask, a AAA blockbuster game?
Well, I don't know about that, but I did find this and, yeah. Minigame compilation is often used as derogatory by folks online for games like this, but it's a lot of effort to do, and considering that, the game ain't even janky. Not all of the minigames are winners, I suppose, but most of them work and are as fun as they are brief and simple. Don't even have to ace shit, you can choose to just continue even then, and additionally, there's many other neat sort of side things like the skateboard or the fact that you get a horse or a boat for no reason other than that it is fun. Cute. The worlds, minigames aside, too, have this RPG towniness about them. Talkable NPCs, triggerable events, some buildings to enter or items to collect and fetch the quests. It's all very small and simple, and the game is short as heck, but everything combined lends Lego Island 2 a pleasantly casual veneer. A fun, carefree adventure in Lego World. Hanging out with the maybe racially insensitive tribal folks who speak in sound effects. Gazing across the endless ocean. Riding into said ocean on a jet ski. Barebacking, Hans honking across the sunsetty medieval plains, skateboarding up and down epic mountains, and being subjected to whatever the fuck this is.
No!
God, this game's directing is so fucking cursed. The way that it starts off on a few frames of Pepper with his back turned to the camera when then suddenly the infomaniac pops up on screen, framed just a bit too highly with a oh god, rather intense expression, as one then proceeds to bumble dump about the island to this clown stank music talking to NPCs that
Livery for Dr. Clickett.
You're looking good, Pepper, but I've got to say, the pizza looks even better.
Oh man, these pauses really don't help. Motherfucker, eat shit! That though is pretty great. Hopping on a skateboard to get dummy air all while chucking and cheesing pizzas at whoever the fuck. There's a definite stiffness about the movement, no doubt, but I also have my fun casually stanking across these mean streets pizza popping goons as I mosey on up. There's even enterable buildings where... Oh, you know, and some of the writing is just...
Hello, Rhoda. It's Pepper sneaking up on you on the inside.
Hey! Hey, bitch! Catch this!
Generally, the game maintains this, whatever the fuck, have fun, anything goes type beat. Yeah, exactly. I quite adore the extreme lack of fucks that this game gives about camera placement, physics, storytelling, writing, comedic timing.
Pepper, what are you doing?
My best.
Like, I mean, was that intentionally timed awkwardly to be funny? I don't know. Let's go Lego Island, double exclamation marks, tilde, has equal amounts, let's make a fun adventure for the children vibes as it does, fuck it, it's for kids who gives a fuck energy. That lands it in a very funny to behold middle ground. Easy to have a good time with, even as not a kid, and to poke fun at as a not a kid. That's good. In many ways, shit doesn't allow for much creative input, but thematically, with events not making sense and shit just being thrown your way, and tonally with all the bonkers NPCs and the donk and clown fart musics, or the menu sounds sounding like rummaging through a Lego box and everything else I've already mentioned so far, it does come across to me as a very playful game in its attitude. A coming to life of the imaginations a kid may have had while playing with Lego themselves growing up. And if that ain't true to the spirit of play well, then I don't know what is. You see, as a kid, I owned the Sphinx Lego set as well as the Small Ruins one, and I vividly remember building it and playing with it, and it speaking to my imagination as it would when child. Imagining what may be in there, tombs, catacombs, mysteries, and so being able to actually be in there, in here, was pretty fucking significant. Exploring the tomb with surprisingly nice atmosphere and visuals, racing through the desert canyons either by yourself or from the back turreting, fly a plane over a jungle river and riding a T-Rex, they really maximize the setting, and where cynically this is a powerful ad for these Lego sets, emotionally it is these sets made real. To be honest, licensing games in general were pretty great for this. Even if trashy, the simple novelty of being able to explore a thing that you liked is, I think, a lot cooler than many folks at the time, and probably even still now, are willing to give them credit for. Plus, it just gave me a cool appreciation for these types of settings that I never would have had otherwise. The Agrabah stage in Cage 1 with its fun vertical playground ass market space alley bangs, the Crash 3 levels jumping across the roofs and spinning through tombs, or Lohan from Legend of the Dragoon with its smoky, crowded market spaces and cool, interconnected buildings with walkable rooftops and winding walkways. It combined shit that I, as a child, would marvel at in my own environment, being that Dutch cities have no shortage of alleyways, market spaces, and closely huddled together interconnected buildings with rooftop access, with the stuff I'd be engaged with through media and stuff. And thus, LEGO Island 2 is deeply, hugely, and bigly nostalgic for me because of that novelty and association. Oh, I figure many of you watching feel a similar way, or at least I hate titles like Playing Blah 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 in 2020 blah blah blah, cause it feels redundant, ostensibly meaningless, and directly dated. That shit ain't evergreen, son. But for just this once, I thought I could weaponize it as to hopefully bring in the people to whom this may resonate with the most. Cause nostalgia, it's just potent enough to goddamn be the actual subject of this video. Hit 'em with the intro. Welcome to So I've Been Playing, the show where I talk about games and experiences I have experienced that I wasn't able to make fully fledged videos out of or repurpose otherwise. Cause, yeah, nostalgia is one of those things I got lots to say about. I've spoken at length before in my Bat Game OST video about how I personally believe that your taste is tied to the past pretty much entirely. You get subjected to shit growing up which creates associations, and then those associations later result in vibes felt when engaging with shit similar to or reminding you of. There's a lot of psychological stuff here that I could get into, again, and more so, relating to what you were born with and what's gained as you live and blah 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 blah. But I'm sure that this is entirely the place for that, as I do think that purely taste-based phenomenon ain't necessarily exactly and implicitly the same as nostalgia. Nostalgia feels more specific. It's an emotion, a specific memory, not something simply that you like in a more intangible or ethereal sense. LEGO Island 2 reviewed in 2022 along with two other twos, aka the three twos, all tied together to me due to memories associated with them. Take Crash Bandicoot 2 for example. One of the first games I ever owned. I love this little shit. Ooh, yeah, so good, I love the controls and the well-spaced DKC-esque jumping challenges. I love the lush jungle settings, amped up by bold saturated colors and jaggy PS1 roughness. I dig the variety in stages and the upbeat rhythm-heavy beats and the skunk faces the funky facial animations produce. And the overall satisfying feel and sound effects of it. It is, dare I say it, pretty good. But those ain't the only reasons as to why I love this game. As you see, every time I play it, I am taken back to one very specific recollection. A memory that shows how much, bullshit nostalgia can be at times. I mean, I remember when me and my parents bought the game. We had to travel outside of town for a bit to buy some shit, and on our way back is when we bought it. And I vividly recall this backtrack. Crossing the wide, dangerous, scary railroad tracks with the long, fast, intimidating trains zigzagging by everywhere. Which is really just a small, tiny crossing. Or this epic secret playground hidden behind the trees. Whoa, secret. No one but me knows where this is. Or the giant buildings with the massive cathedral and the cool canals where we had a little snack on the bench with like birds everywhere and crazy water, like whoa, and a secret ladder leading down below. Oh my god, bog ladder! And cycling through these areas now is like, it's nice. I hella live here for sure, but it's definitely not the wild wonderland I thought it was, you know? Even if it does have some cool underpasses and graffiti, kid memories, while strong, is also sort of fake. Nostalgia is one hell of a drug. But yet, every time I play this game and enter them Turtle Woods, all of this judders right back to the foreground of my conscience. So, it is impossible for me to disconnect that from how I feel about Crash Bandicoot 2. Not that I personally believe that something as impartial or unbiased or objective critique exists. That's not what I'm aiming for at all. But I say this as to say that this stuff is cool. It's nice to emotionally time travel in such a vividly realized way through an interactive medium. Being in this game is like being back in that time, at least in some small way. Songs, movies, or physical objects from a bygone time can take a person back too, but they all do so in ways differently as games, at least to me. If only due to the interactive elements letting me engage with those memories in a more involved manner, and if a game is big enough, you can find new shit in there altogether. Same way the Lego game let me live inside the Lego, Crash 2 lets me chill inside of my own childhood memories. Which got me thinking, what if a game would be built entirely around this intently? Be it through themes or mechanics. What if there was a game that deliberately wanted to create a nostalgic response without trying to like be a throwback or whatever? Not cynical nostalgia bait cash and shit, but something that actually expressed on an emotional level a type of unified sense of reflection to a past. Well, I may have found this exact game. This dude pulls up on your bitch and asks her to ride his shoe puff. What do?
Rides the shoe puff?
Occasionally, this song will pop into my head while walking around the house, which is fitting as it has quite the homely quality to it. Obviously, a part of this, to me, is because I played it growing up and thus have that association. However, I also believe that it is very implicitly composed to sound that way. You see, when Titus comes here, it is alien. Nice and defo quite cozy, but certainly not at all like where he came from. He's also on the cusp of a journey, not to mention the weird video game-ass route he took to get here, and so the music playing in his visit to be saved feels somewhat melancholic and cautious, what with the tense arpeggios fading in and out throughout the song, but it's also packed with this adventurous jaunt, amping up the player for the road ahead. But for Yuna, this is home. A home she just came back to after a while, yet hasn't changed at all. Hence why the music has a more laid-back, warm, embracing quality to it. Folks inside also talking about how shit's gotten quieter, yet same old, all the while remarking how different Yuna, is now. Similarly, the other ex-main characters have settled down to become parents. Normal-ass people, not without some doubts and struggles, but they've gotten old regardless of whether or not the models reflect this at all.
Oh, you haven't changed a bit, Tubby.
Yeah, no, they really don't. But there's also a tiny bit of trouble brewing, being that a cave on the island houses secrets of the past. A very personal past to one of the folks from here, and this essentially sets off how the game will be tonally and themely. Like, on the face of it, 10-2's got significant amounts of young person energy. Pop stars, over the top and flashy, big fashions, new radical religious leaders, goofy jokes and humor, and a story about dealing with the game of games past and how that affects the present. We killed the big bad in the first one, but also lost and sacrificed a lot along the way, and is shit actually any better now? Hell, we don't even have the old comfy Nobuo man doing the composing anymore. We got these hip new crazy motherfuckers fresh off of doing Racing Lagoon and
The Bouncer.
And thus, we get battle music that sounds more like the theme to a fucking victory lap. Fitting too, given that we have lightning fast combat, crazy quick pacing, hella shit running on timers, and the cast literally blasting across the continent on a ship with hella hearty energy. Perhaps the music influenced bits of the game, maybe the game influenced the music. I don't know, and neither do you, but nobody cares, because it's still thematically on point. As this was actually the first main Final Fantasy developed under Square Enix. A lot of key people left and teams got reshook, and so it makes sense for this to have a different vibe to it for sure. Though, through all that, I also wouldn't be surprised if many of the remaining dev team folks, many of whom not being the youngest at this point, also had some of their feelings on these changes seep deep into the game's its DNA. Motherfucker, what? The Final Fantasy series, since a jump, has always been an attempt at making the somewhat stuffy and nerdy RPG genre cool. ATB bringing in action elements, dashing, fancy character designs, big, epic cock rock for boss battles, and later on you got edgier themes and stylings and cinematic aspirations and anime influences and what have you. Not Dungeons and Dragons, aka basements and neckbeards, but instead vibings and fashions. Though, well, for the most part, this was more of an undercurrent. Final Fantasy X-2 seems like the first time that this shit was super fucking blatant. A big, bold statement saying, yes, sometimes we do want a giant flying Harley spaceship with tribal tattoos, and we do want tripped out floating dudes busting out guitar shreds, and we do want a lightning fast battle system where motherfuckers just interrupt each other's bullshit and fuck it, fuck swords, bring out the guns. In essence, it is a game that tried to shoot so far into the stratosphere of cool, modern, futuristic, flashy, heavy dope shit that it had no choice but to also reflect on the stuff it left behind in its wake of its blast-off. World go a fuck, longing for the past, future scary, uncertain, status quo go bye-bye, missing home, away from home, on a big journey, adulthood versus teenage dreams, pop stars versus dads, and the people we've lost, could they still be alive? Things aren't necessarily always better than how they were in the game's thematic eyes, and also shit feels like a fucking holiday at times, man. They've taken 10's linear world, added a menu map to it, explosive suggestions of clearly marked objectives, and otherwise an attitude along the lines of, just go wherever. As with every major event, each and every locale will repop with minor events, consisting out of exciting ventures such as hanging out, reminiscing, getting the band back together, catching butterflies in the forest, metal detector treasure hunting, dressing up as a Moogle and handing out balloons to the children, finding a girlfriend for some shy guy, and primarily me being in awe at how all of this is often fleshed out enough to have been major shit in most other games. Voice cutscenes and everything. You can simply visit any place, take in the scenery, talk to folks, stumble into some type of dumb event, be it in a coming home after a long time sense, or in a visiting a foreign place to pog and point at the sight sense. It's never not vibey. I used to play JRPGs primarily during summer vacay growing up, and this is one summer vacay-ass game, let me tell you. It's all very lighthearted is what I'm trying to get at. To the point where the game almost feels as if a goddamn comedy at times. Memeing on battle conventions with fucking Boris over here. The directing is typically insanely bouncy with super over-exaggerated zooms, animations, and faces, and there's plenty of fucko boingo music to go around too, which pulls off a cool thematic theme with the Luca music as well. In that, in Final Fantasy X, the city's BGM had a hustle, bustle, and a bit of urgency. A pace befit of a big new city visited for the first time, with problems looming on the horizon. But here it's just this fucking Mario Sunshine ass, purely vibing ass, laid back yet chipper little Sunnytown music. It fits the city just as much as X's music did, but it also frames it in a different manner. Yuna isn't blown away by the place, nor is anything bad about about to happen. She's only visiting to look around, maybe sign some autographs, meet some old friends, though generally just take in the sun and nothing much else. NPCs talking about how people no longer work, or how the once treacherous roads are now freely travelable with machines, or how so many people are traveling and seeing the world now. For as bold as a game this is, it's got some old people using their pension money to go to Italy or wherever the fuck only to complain about shit energy to it too.
Looking at all the young people gathered here to take part in the league's endeavors, I must say, I'm quite envious. So much energy, so much time. While I, on the other hand, have grown weary with the passing of many years. I travel Spira, gathering knowledge, only to have it slip my mind a moment later.
Not to mention characters feeling out of place with how fast the world has evolved around them, as they were either chilling the days away post-adventure or were stuck in a rut left without a purpose.
All I want's some peace and quiet.
Poor thing, she's led such a sheltered life.
Maybe she's getting old. Who's getting old?
Iconic locations from 10 turn into tourist attractions by characters who you know who feel various ways about it. The once wise exposition machine Mädchen no longer able to keep up.
Oh, I had something on the tip of my tongue, but then it slipped away. Something very important.
Folks who once had a clear relationship or place now being torn apart by all the crazy directions the story takes them into. Or how there's no longer any room for chocobos, what with all the fancy new technology running rampant, perfectly tying into our old buddy Clasco. I used him as a primary example of the benefits of Final Fantasy X's linear and rigid structure in this big dumb jank old video that I did on it a fair few years ago, as the dude had a really satisfying arc that played out by way of bump-ins. Starting off as a bumble boy, but ending up realizing that maybe he just wanted to be a chocobo carer. However, this game is anti-linear, and Clasco is actually struggling with that.
That's it. Every time I try something new, I screw it up. I just don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know where I belong. I've spent my whole life drifting from one failure to the next. But I can't keep doing this forever. I know that there's a place for everyone in this world, even someone as sad and pathetic as me.
After which, you can have him tag along with you, getting sick on the boat.
Why won't the room stop shaking?
And going on a few neat chocobo charts side adventures resulting from this. It's such a neat flip reversal acknowledging what the old game did with its structure impacting its characters, and how this game uses its structure to impact primarily its greater themes built around its characters. Final Fantasy X-2 is a cool meta sequel, not gonna lie. Knowingly using the allotted risk-freeness of making a game with pretty much only reused assets and the already confirmed install base to make something super wild, new, and different. But then, by virtue of either having to stick to what was already established characterally at least somewhat, or maybe the old death thing what I mentioned earlier, also ending up with a story about disillusionment with the times. Hence why I feel that Final Fantasy X-2 has nostalgia caked into its very DNA. A comfy blanket, good-ass, fun-time energy game that isn't nearly as stupid or vapid as many gamer critics of its time felt it was. A lot of that is the usual pig-headed garbo shit of hating on stuff being flamboyant or girly or gaudy and all the other terms used by motherfuckers who secretly just hate marginalized people, but I, for one, am a dumb bitch, and I very much appreciate the fact that this game let me read it in ways likely never intended just so that I could make this video. So, thank you, Final Fantasy X-2, for protecting me from this really scary railroad crossing IRL.
Pinball!